Ashish Tandon, now a business development director for a technology company, is a lifelong Avid learner. Listen to his stories and you'll know exactly how to recognize the traits of an accelerated learner in action. You've really built a career on charting new territory, venturing into new markets for your companies, etc., which forces you to learn a lot on your own.
Right.
And you can't just model what somebody else did because it hasn't been done before. So can you share with us, how do you approach your learning?
All right. But it was during my stint in Africa that I learned to be a balanced person, to understand the value of listening. Because all of a sudden, I'm away from my comfort zone. I come to the dark recesses of Africa. I come to Nigeria, where I'm a guest worker. And, and I expected people to sort of welcome me. That never happens. So unless and until I had the emotional intelligence to understand, listen, hey, they are not going to welcome me. I need to make my presence felt. First sign of maturity. All right, need to do that. Isn't the common man, your consumer, your vendor, also in a sense your biggest teacher? And I want to cite a case that when I first went to Africa, um, uh, I went to the open market. And at that point in time, I was in a consulting assignment. I was doing consulting for Coca-Cola. I was trying to wrap my head around. So we had a problem statement from the client, and they wanted an insight into a problem that they had. Essentially, that being that you don't really have power there. You need to keep your Coke cool. So how do you do that? It's a power deficit country, right?
Mm-hmm.
I, no amount of research, no amount of me going back to my friends in doing research in India helped me out. Till such time, I decided to actually walk the local market. When I was walking there, and you had these poor African women, carrying coke on their heads, that I sat down with her. I took a coke from her, and my first question to her was, "How do you keep the coke cool?" That she is my teacher. That's when I had an option of going back to the client and saying, listen, I can give you a decision tree. You have three options. This is what you do. He wasn't bothered. Where did I get it from? But that told me that poor illiterate girl was my teacher. If you have the humility, if you have the intelligence to understand that, that's when you progress. So point number two. Now, third is, when you got this learning all stitched up, you have to put that learning to practice in real business situations quickly. And then in brackets, I've written, fail fast and recover faster to succeed.
I love it.
Now, interestingly, this statement doesn't guarantee that you're going to succeed. I'm not saying that you're going to succeed. All right? But you have to have the courage of conviction to understand that you will fail. And please accept it. I mean, I can bet the last bottom dollar, anyone who's a Fortune 1000 or Fortune 500 CEO, there'll be no one who hasn't failed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be kicking myself if I say I didn't fail. I can tell you n number of stories where I failed and what I did from that. So here I've got a complete decision tree where I said that, well, if your learning is put into a business situation, it works. Success, continuous improvement. Very simple term, all right? There's nothing fancy to it. I mean, I can make it fanciful. But if you fail, then I'm taken to Alvin Toffler, who said that the illiterates of the 21st century would not be people who can't read or write, but they'll be people who cannot learn, cannot unlearn, and then relearn, which is the basic essence of lifelong learning. In my last assignment before I came to the US to get my second master's, I was CEO, de facto P&L head for a consumer product startup. And we were competing against the likes of Lever, the giants, Lever, Reckitt Benckiser, who've been in Nigeria for 65, 70 odd years. Now imagine me coming on board, typical startup from scratch, and I'm trying to hit the big boys. And I am a very aggressive person. I don't take no for an answer. I'm extremely passionate. Now, I don't want to generalize, but the working ethic and culture of sub-Saharan Africa is very laid back, very Caribbean. And all of a sudden I come in and I go and tell them that, listen, hey, 12 o'clock on Friday doesn't mean that you could be dressed in mufti, and you can't do that because I'm wearing formals, I'm in office, I'm sweating like a pig. You can't do that. Obviously, you're going to have a whole lot of people up in arms. These people rebelled against me. In fact, I was on tour. They went up to my MD and said, kick me out. He stuck to his guns because he saw the passion in me. He knew the passion could be converted into what he wanted, to achieve in terms of a vision and mission for that company. And I delivered eventually. These very people who threatened me, threatened my life, etc. At the end of 4.5 years, when I was leaving for America, they had tears in their eyes. Believe you me, Mary, if you wanted a dedicated team who would give their right arm and a life for me here in America, all I have to do is give them a call. They will not even, you send the tickets, they will not even question what needs to be done. They will all come here. Because I have been in open markets where you had all sorts of shit happening in Africa with them.
Yeah.
I was leading from the front. So when they saw that passion in me, they became passionate. Now it's amazing. I'll just tell you what happened. My ex-boss is he just arrived here a couple of weeks back. His son is getting admission into Technical College of New Jersey. And he told me something which blew my mind away. I had handpicked a team of illiterates to run my factory. They were illiterates in Africa, all right? And that's African stock. If these are people like 6 foot, I'm average height, 6 foot, built up, natural, right? Yeah. They were extremely aggressive towards me. They didn't like the fact that I was a hard task master. I wanted them to work. I wanted to have, a system, etc. They didn't like it. And this year, because of the work that I put in, they and their entire families went for a week's holiday to Dubai. And they still remember me. I have been outside that company for almost 2.5 years. I still get calls from them. Imagine how expensive it is for them to give a call. They still give me a call and say, because of you, I'm somebody in life. That is my win, right? That's passion. Mm-hmm. Second characteristic of a lifelong learner, I think, is humility. If you do not possess humility, you will never be able to accept a roadside vendor as your teacher. I just told you about the story. If you do not possess humility, you will never be able to accept failure and just get back to the drawing board to unlearn and relearn. I refer to Alvin Toffler. So you need to have humility. Mm-hmm. It has to be a part of who you are. And I've learned that, in Africa. Africa taught me a whole lot of other things. And third characteristic, which I think would be, which has to be accepted logically, is intelligence. And by that, I don't really mean your GMAT score, SATs. I've got enough of those. But intelligence is often learned, again, in very unstructured environments. So ability to grasp key points from the learning episodes.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to ask you, so you reflect very effectively so that you're pulling your lessons out throughout your experiences.
Yes, absolutely. And you should have the intelligence to understand that, this is something that I've actually taken out from this episode, from my learning, from the conversation. Maybe, if I have a situation like this, I know where to, so it has to be stored as part of your RAM in your head somewhere. You know exactly when to pull it out and to implement it. Dexterity of mental thought, of application, again, it's intelligence. Now that can be an acquired skill. It's not, you're not born with it. But if you have a structured learning process, if you have a teacher, maybe me, I can probably teach you. Second point in intelligence is ability to implement the key points from your learning to practical business challenges. I mentioned that. It has to be learned and put into practical business applications.
Right.
It's never learned in a business school. I mean, I've got 2 MBAs. I know it. Ability to accept failure when the learning does not work, essentially called emotional intelligence or EQ. Women have higher EQ, men don't. I'm accepting it. So basically, now the interesting thing is between you and me, despite being a man, I have believed that women make better managers. I honestly do. And I'll give you another case in point. When I was in Africa, the last assignment I had, if you go through my LinkedIn profile, you see Kormat. That's something you really need to sort of focus on. My MD was Dutch. And this gentleman, he'd been in Africa. He has been in Africa for 35 years now. So obviously he's a veteran. And I was a newbie by his standards. My immediate boss was Indian, the gentleman who's right here in America right now. When I came on board, and he gave me this entire vision and mission. Mission is, here is levers, which has been in Nigeria for 70 years. Kill them in a year. Are you kidding me? I don't have a marketing budget. I am a one-man army. I don't have a CapEx budget. And you are asking me to sell products to dollar poor people and to kill 70 man years multiplied with so many thousand people man years in 1 year. I mean, I didn't say that in so much of passion. I was very quiet about it. I said, all right, so you'll have to have a very open mind about marketing. So he said, all right, what's that? I said, I, along with a team of street vendors, will go and actually sample this out to people in Lagos. All right. So what's the budget? How many people? I said, I'll start with 10 people and we'll actually, stand in traffic jams and hand this out to people or give them at some subsidized value so that they remember what the product is because they have to know how to use it. Otherwise, it's not going to sell. Yeah, all right, take a budget, blah, blah, etc. So he said, okay, how do you want the construct of your team? I said, all women. He said, why? I said, I know, because they'll be more committed. No, dismissive, because, I mean, of course, he was my mom's age. So, yeah. And he said, I got 35 years. And I'm thinking to myself, so what? I have been to the market, you don't. So I said, I want women. No, you can't do it, because I said, very politely, I asked him, I said, why not? He said, oh, because I've been here 35 years. I said, but Mr. Middennacht, there was everybody was sitting there, including my own boss. I said, but Mr. Middennacht, you have never ever been to a local market. He took huge offense, obviously being the MD of the company. What do you mean? I said, that's true. Can you name all these markets? I said, I can reel out the names. Local markets, blah, blah, etc., etc., etc. Do you even know them? Case closed. Then he said, if it does not succeed, I will have your head. I said, yeah, by all means. Oh, so that's courage of conviction. I said, yeah, I will resign. Obviously, I did not resign. I became the golden goose laying the golden egg because I ultimately ended up killing levers. I was selling my consumer product to, dollar poor people, bottom of the pyramid, generating 50% net margin. If I were to tell you the scope of the challenge, you'll be shocked. But that's a different story. It's about some element of accelerated learning and how that happens. Again, the same point that I mentioned here, but also about compassion, empathy, and intelligence all rolled into one. So a classic story about what you need to go and do with the target market before you actually make the entry. And then there's nothing as worse as going and selling to dollar poor people, right? So this is what my take is on the topic of accelerated learning.
Sales Mastery is your resource to make it easy to accelerate your sales learning. Make sure to connect. Find out about new interviews first by subscribing to our YouTube channel right here. And get more resources to help you master selling by clicking here. I wish you the best of success.